Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Bites Whiskey Reviews with a Gaming Twist. I'm your host, Clifton, and welcome to another Thursday night live stream. I'm so excited for tonight's stream. I know we didn't do it last week because it was Thanksgiving, but we are back both on YouTube and Instagram. First time streaming on Instagram. Hopefully everything looks and sounds okay. We're doing a dual stream, trying it out tonight. So if you're here from Instagram, feel free to say hello and join us in the chat. I should be able to see both of the chats here during the stream, but we'll see how it goes. Tonight, we are doing something different, something I've been thinking about for a while, and I've been trying to find a way to do it in a fun way. So what I decided to do was I went out to buy bourbon without researching it first, which is something I never do. Listen, I'm a whiskey fan. I like to do my research. I like to keep an eye out for bottles that I know are going to be good bourbons. But this time, I let my gut take me on a journey. And I said, let me buy whiskeys based exclusively on the bottle. So that's what we're doing tonight. All of these bottles I bought just based on the look of the bottle alone. I didn't really know. I really didn't know what I was in for. Some of these I know a little bit more about now that I've had them, but when I bought them, I knew nothing about them. So that's the kind of that's where we're starting off here with our theme tonight. But it should be fun. I want to say hello to some folks in the chat over on YouTube. Tony Bag of Donuts is here. He says first. Fred's here as well. I forgot to tell you I had such delicious choripan. Not sure what that is, but I think you're probably telling Tony, not me. Judging a whiskey by a label. Yes, that's exactly what we are doing today. Some for the good, maybe some not so good, but it should still be a good time. So if you're watching, feel free to say hello. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's a whiskey you bought by the bottle just because you thought it looked cool and you actually ended up loving it? If you guys have stories, let me know in the chat. Also, let me know what you're drinking on. Right now, I'm drinking nothing, so I'm going to get something poured. I think I'm going to start with... I'll just go in the order of the thumbnail, okay? So this one, there's a story behind because I first saw it on probably the TTB label months and months ago when they were first coming out, and I was like, that phrase sounds familiar. So being a person that's kind of really into 80s culture, it's hard to not associate this bottle with the Goonies because the name of it is very similar to one of their slogans. But I learned a lot about that phrase because it came up in one of the movies that we watched for our monthly movie nights over on Patreon. And it was like a 70s movie. It was like much older than the Goonies. And they said this phrase too. So that's when I learned that this phrase wasn't made up by the Goonies. Who knew? Actually, it's a phrase from the 1800s. It's been around for a long time. If you haven't guessed it already, I'm talking about Never Say Die. So I saw this and I was like, oh, what a perfect one to pick up for the channel because, you know, the 80s twist thing we got going on here. So I was like, oh, this will be a fun one just because of the name. Well, turns out there's a lot of interesting info about this bourbon itself. I also do want to give a shout out to the Bourbon House in Lexington, Kentucky. It was the Airbnb where we stayed for the It's Bourbon Night meetup, which coincidentally, I'm wearing my It's Bourbon Night shirt here today. And this was the people that own the Bourbon House. Actually, this is their brand, Never Say Die. So that was pretty cool. I was like, okay, I own that bottle. I haven't tried it, but I own the bottle. So, but what makes this interesting is more than just the label, which got me even more curious when I picked it up off the shelf. This is a small batch bourbon whiskey. It is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, but it is an English take on the American dream. So what they did, let me see if they tell it better than I do. They say, so basically Never Say Die is named after a racehorse that won against all odds, changing the course of racing and music history forever. On the night our colt was born, he nearly died. Saved with a shot of bourbon, he went on to win the 1954 Epsom Derby in front of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. So that's where the name comes from. But it is an older phrase from the 1800s. That's where the Never Say Die comes from. But what makes this even more interesting is this is a whiskey that has been distilled in Kentucky, but bottled and aged in the UK. So I thought the bottle itself would have a little bit more info. Maybe I have to go to their website to see what we have in terms of like what the heck is going on here. I don't want to sign up for their newsletter. I just want to see the info about it. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. Never Say Die Bourbon. It says Kentucky Province with English character. It is a mash bill of 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley. Considered a high rye bourbon, obviously, with that mash bill. It does say it's a Kentucky straight bourbon, so we don't know actually where it's from, but it is bottled at 95 proof. Let's see if they tell you anything about the bottling and the aging. Let's see. Oh, these are just the different releases. Oh, come on. I wanted them to tell us a little bit more about like the fact that it's like aged in. Hold on. Never Say Die Bourbon aged in UK. I was hoping to find a press release or something. First bourbon to be distilled in Kentucky, shipped via vessel across the Atlantic Ocean, and then matured in England. So there we go. There is not currently an age statement on this release. So we don't know how old it was actually aged in England, but it's just a fun, interesting journey that I don't think I've ever seen a whiskey taken on. So we're going to try this. I bought it because of the label, but it could also be really, really good. So let's give it a try. Tony says he wants a Chilean whiskey. Yeah, I've not heard of any. I'm sure they probably make something akin to whiskey. Emily says, I bought Kalila by the label the very first time, and I love the box. Nice. Kalila, I don't think I've ever owned one of their. I had a set that had like a 200 milliliter Kalila, but I don't think I ever had a full-size Kalila bottle from their standard bottling. I've had some single independent bottlings of it back here, but I've never had a full-sized one. So, but very, very cool. All right. So again, we're dealing with a bourbon. It does say straight bourbon, so we know it's at least without an age statement on it. I believe it has to be at least 4 years old. But yeah, that's all we really know. Again, distilled in Kentucky, aged in England. Let's see what that does to a bourbon. Let's give it a nose first. Okay, not bad. It's definitely very bright and light on the nose. I mean, like I said, with it being a straight bourbon, it does have to be at least without there being an age statement. I believe it has to be 4 years old. But with it being aged in England, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get the same impact with the wood that a Kentucky bourbon would do. So that's what's interesting. Tony said he's been lacking on his likes lately. Oh, no worries. Well, yeah, whether you're on Instagram or YouTube, hit the thumbs up. It does mean a lot here on the channel. Especially tonight. I don't know. I've noticed the crowds on a lot of people's live streams this week have been kind of a little smaller than normal. So I guess people are just out doing stuff with family, which is totally fair and totally cool. But yeah, I've just noticed that across a few different people's streams. So I'm like, yeah, if you guys appreciate you guys being here and spending time with me, it does mean a lot. If you want to see more of me, I've been doing a lot of Twitch streaming with members of our community. Fred here in the chat, Zopher here in the chat. We did some gameplay of Peak last night and the night before, and we played some RV There Yet. Very fun co-op online multiplayer games. I put some clips up on Instagram. There's a link to that down in my bio as well if you want to see those hilarious moments from our gaming sessions. Those are on my Instagram reels. Oh, Pat's here too from Bourbon Noob. Bourbon Noob is also featured in today's clip, which was a ton of fun. So yeah, if you want to see more gaming streams, let me know. I've been doing them over on Twitch, but I'm also considering doing them over here more on YouTube. I just know the YouTube audience is mostly, most of you are subscribed for the whiskey. But if you are open to the video game streams, I'm happy to stream over here as well. Just let me know in the comments below after the stream. All right. The nose will Never Say Die. Light, fruity, not really dark, no caramel, no it's like vanilla, but it's very sweet vanilla. It's not like a, I don't know, to me it's not like a I mean, it does smell like a bourbon, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is like not bourbon like. It is indeed bourbon like. But I will say it is a very light flavor profiled bourbon. Let's go for a taste. Cheers, y'all. Okay. Yeah, a lot more I was a little worried with the fact that it was very light on the nose. I was worried this was going to taste like a very, very young bourbon, but it's actually it's aged quite well. And I don't know, they don't tell you like when it was moved over to England. We don't know if it was just finished there for like a year or so. We don't know anything like that. But it has taken on a lot of character and body for it being only 95 proof. I have to have another sip of that one. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. I was a little scared. I'll be honest. I was a little scared because I was like, okay, aged in the UK, what kind of climate do they have compared to like a Kentucky? Um, but really, that's a really nice flavor profile. I wish I could, have more information about it. Like maybe are they distilling it themselves? Are they sourcing it? I don't really know. Again, none of that's available on their website as far as I can tell. But it's a very good flavor profile. Now, in terms of price, I'm just curious how much this costs. So it's a little up there in price. I'll say this one was about $70 um, at Total Wine near me. So it does have a decent price on it. I think I got it on sale at K&L for a little bit cheaper, but yeah, so about $70 for non-age dated bourbon whiskey, but it had a lot of character and a lot of flavor. And honestly, it surprised me more than I thought it would. Pat said it's similar to a Pacific Northwest climate. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So okay, so almost like a Woodinville. I'm trying to think of what other whiskeys are aged up that way. So not as intense of the summers and the winters as you would get in something like Kentucky, but still very nice. Honestly, wasn't expecting to like this as much as I do. Well done. Again, the oak isn't really there, which I thought was going to be a big letdown, but it's actually not. It's just the grains themselves or the distillate itself is such a good distillate that it doesn't have to be carried by a strong oak backbone, which is normally what I look for. But it's just I don't know. It works really well. Pat says that mash bill is popping up with a few NDPs. Google seems to think it's Barton juice. Nothing definitive though. Okay, I will say it tastes very much unlike any Barton that I've had. Um, Barton, but but I'll say this: most of the Barton I've had has been very well aged. This though, I think this is minimum 4 years, so this would be some of the youngest Barton I've had. But I will say it has a body to it that maybe that 95 proof is getting because sometimes a young Barton I also associate with the lower proof, but 95 proof and relatively young, I like it. Bourbon for England is what they call it. They do have a barrel strength version, by the way. I'm looking at their website to see their different products. Yeah, they have a barrel strength bourbon, and then they have a rye whiskey as well. I'm gonna have to check it out because this really impresses me for a first sip. So, cheers to Never Say Die. Goonies Never Say Die. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's move on to the bottle that I'm probably the most interested in, but also least excited for. If you saw my thumbnail, we are. Let me move this all the way so I don't spill it. We are talking about Abduction bourbon. Yes, you heard that right. Abduction whiskey is actually the brand, but it is a straight bourbon whiskey. 45% ABV. Is he there? Yeah. Abduction straight bourbon whiskey. It says this is a 4-grain bourbon crafted on Earth. Just so we're clear, this 4-grain bourbon has been crafted on Earth, and it has been aged 3 to 4 years. It is known and loved throughout the galaxy. Get abducted is what they say on their website. Now, that's all fun and all, but like, let's be real. Where is this actually made? Well, if you look at the bottom, distilled. Oh, come on, focus. Distilled in Indiana, bottled by Bluegrass Bottling in Kentucky. So it's not actually a intergalactic whiskey after all, but it is a really fun bottle. This bottle definitely caught my eye, which is with the spaceship on it. 3 to 4 year old Indiana bourbon. I already know what to expect. It's going to be a relatively young tasting bourbon. I will say pricing. This is where this one gets me too. Retail on this bottle is $45. $45 for a 3 to 4 year old Indiana bourbon. Coming in at, what was the ABV? Did I say it was 100? No, 90 proof. A 90 proof 3 to 4 year old Indiana bourbon. You know, that's up there in price. I got this on sale for 30, which I still feel like for that age, for that price, for that proof, there's just something not adding up there. Now, I will say there is a unique blend of grains here. So here's the story about this bottle, just based on the K&L website. It says Abduction whiskey is the brainchild of local Bay Area native Ryan Murray. He's put together a unique blend of 4 grains, which is 69% corn, 15.75% rye, 11.25% wheat, and 4% barley. Distilled and aged at MGP and blended by himself and bottled in Kentucky. The fun UFO-themed label stands out, but his lovely approach to bourbon inside that's out of this world. That's how it's described on their website. Tony said, I got abducted once. I've been waiting to get back at those ET SOBs for a long time. And in response to that, Bourbon Noob says, Tony just wants to get probe again. Yeah, I feel you. I could see that for sure. Zover said, I like Venus aged whiskeys. Some people like Neptune whiskeys, but I've not had one that has been sent into orbit. That I've been sent into orbit over yet. Like it. I like the puns. M says they'll be distilled on the moon soon. Honestly, that would be an interesting experiment, like a zero gravity, or I guess moon does have some gravity, like a zero gravity whiskey. Like, what would happen? Like, would the bourbon just, like, if you like shook the barrel up, would the bourbon just continuously just do that? And like, how would that interact with the wood? That's an interesting concept. Elon, get on that. I know you're watching. You're probably watching somewhere. That's so interesting. I never even thought about like how gravity would affect bourbon aging. We also have Donner Pass in the chat and CJP Bourbon. Cheers to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're doing a bit of a different thing today. We're doing earth-aged bourbon, according to the bottle, Indiana. Nose, young. I mean, it is 4 grains, so there is some wheat in here as well, which could lend to some of the youthful notes as well. It's almost got a bit of a sour mash. Not a sour, well, yeah, kind of like a sour note that I associate with sour mash. That's what I meant to say. It's got a little bit of like tartness. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't smell off-putting. Like, it doesn't smell like there's anything wrong with it. It just doesn't excite me on the nose. This is almost what I expected the Never Say Die bourbon to kind of smell like. It's just simple. It smells like it's going to be a very one-note whiskey. That doesn't mean it's a bad one note. I'll stop guessing. I'm just going to go in for a taste. Cheers. Very familiar flavor profile. It's very clearly an Indiana bourbon. I don't necessarily detect that it's 4 grain, but it is only 11% wheat in there, so it's not like beating me over the head with that wheat. It's such a light amount. The corn is really what's showing here. The rye is kind of muted by the fact that it's been balanced out by some wheat. I don't think it's bad. It's a fun label. I think it's severely overpriced at $45. I love a cool label. I love a fun, funky label. But 3 to 4 year old Indiana bourbon you could find for less than, I would say less than $30. I would say less than 20 maybe, but definitely less than 30. Okay, nothing wrong with it. The base here, the core of this whiskey is very good. There's a little more oak than the Never Say Die for sure, but it's kind of like lingering in the background. Up front is that sweet corn note. Again, none of the rice spice, not much of the wheat impact. It's fine. It's fine. I think it tastes like a $25 bottle. Definitely not a $45 bottle. But on sale for $30, I don't hate it. I won't say I will buy another bottle of it, even though it is a cool bottle if you missed it. Here's our bottle of Abduction whiskey. Yeah. Donner Pass Whiskey says label design. Compass Box sends some money on graphic artists for sure. Thompson Brothers have some labels that look like they gave a 6-year-old a crayon. Yeah, so when I say buying whiskey based on the label, I don't necessarily mean that all of these are my favorite labels. It's just that the label made me curious enough to pick it up. So that's kind of what the idea was. It doesn't mean that these are my favorite labels ever created. It's just they caught my eye enough for me to grab and give a review of. Pat says weird mash bill for a 4-grain. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think what they're probably doing is just they're blending a couple different MGP mash bills and just doing certain proportions of them. That or the Walking Dead whiskey. I do have a Walking Dead whiskey. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the bottle up there. I'm keeping that for when the apocalypse happens because we know we're getting pretty dang close. All right, we got 2 more whiskeys to get through. Next one, the next 2 caught my eye for a good reason. I really like the labels on them. So let me pull up the page about this one. So this one, I've had their brand before, Old Soul Bourbon. They are based out of, I believe it's, let me have the info here. Mississippi. Okay. So Old Soul Bourbon is based out of Mississippi. I've had one of their single barrels before, and I really, really liked it. So when I saw that these unique labels were being put out, one, was drawn to the label because it's really, it has a lot of character. And 2, it's a brand that I recognize. So that's why I picked up this Old Soul. This is called TinType number 2. So this is the label. Now they had a TinType number 1 and a number 2. It is a straight bourbon whiskey, 113.7 proof, uncut and unfiltered, cask strength, 8 years, 10 months. And this is a special release. It's MGP. It's Indiana bourbon. It's old Indiana bourbon. But what's really cool is each of these pay a tribute to a music legend in the world of it's not just jazz, but just soul music in general. So this one, TinType number 2, is a tribute to. I just want to make sure I have this info right because they write both of these descriptions together. Okay, so this is a tribute to Herman Hitson, who was known for his funky, soulful rhythms. So here's his picture right there. Really cool design. Now, honestly, when I saw it was called TinType, I thought it was going to be a little bit like a reflective look on the label. It's not. I think it's just based on the type of art that it's based off of. TinType is a photographic process developed in the 1850s that creates a direct positive image on a thin black enamel metal plate. So if you saw the original version of this, it would have been on a metal plate. I just thought maybe that they would put it on the bottle as well. So this one, I kind of thought it was going to be prettier when I saw it pop up online, but I still think it's a really cool bottle. Where in Mississippi? Great question. So like I said, they're aging it in Mississippi, but it is distilled in so it's distilled in Indiana, aged and bottled by Cathead Distillery in Jackson, Mississippi. So, but finally, now I'm getting to the point that I was saying. This is actually in collaboration with the Music Maker Foundation. So Music Maker Foundation, it says, well, first of all, about Herman Hitson, it says, Herman is a funk, soul, and psychedelic rock magically rolled into one. We are proud to partner with Music Maker Foundation, which has been supporting and connecting artists since 1994. Music Maker meets the day-to-day needs of the artists who create traditional American music, ensures their voices are heard, and gives all people access to our nation's hidden musical treasures. So, this is in tribute to that. I thought I had the info about how much. So funds from this actually do go to support that foundation. Unfortunately, I don't have that percentage in front of me. I was hoping it would say it on the bottle. Yeah. But there is a QR code to listen to Herman's music right there. So if you want to screenshot that and check it out, maybe listen to it in the background when you watch the replay. I can't show it during the show because that'll be some copyright infringement. But yeah, so this is made in collaboration with that foundation. So I love a good whiskey with a good story, and that label has a good story behind it. Um, Donner Pass Whiskey said, seen some old jazz people before they passed. Love old school jazz. Yeah, I've unfortunately never really had a chance to see much jazz in person. I know next time I go to New Orleans, I need to for sure see some live jazz. I think I was looking for it last time I was there, but I either like had just missed shows or they were too late for me. I don't really remember exactly. Fred said, "Oh, TinType. I've been curious about those from Old Soul, as their other source bottlings are great. They've been too overpriced for me to gamble on them, though." That's fair. I will say so. Part of the reason I gambled on this was one, the label, but two, I've had a single barrel Old Soul before that I thought was fantastic. So when I saw that this was 8 years, 10 months, I had to pick it up. I will say this one was on sale. You notice a trend here. Cliffy likes a good bargain. Retail on this bottle was $125, but I was able to get it for $91. So it was on sale for $91 after tax, added up to just at $100. So $100 for an 8-year, 10-month Indiana bourbon with a cool story and a cool label at cask strength. I think that's a fair price. But again, it just depends on what your budget is. I think I was a little more willing to pay that because I've had some incredible Old Soul bourbon before. So, but I recommend them in general. I think their whiskey is just really good. All right. This is a fresh crack, by the way. I have not had this one yet, but I'm excited to give it a try. So we'll find out if it's any good tonight. I can't imagine it not being good. Just based on old MGP, a brand that I love, and a cool story to go behind it. That sounds much better. What's the age? So 8 years, 10 months. Indiana, MGP bourbon. Cliffy reviews the shiniest bottles in the bargain bin. Okay, well, not all of these were on. Okay, no, not all of them were on sale. 3 of them were. Okay. Honestly, would you have wanted me to pay $45 for Abduction 3 to 4 year old bourbon? No, but $30. Cliffy was like, that's $15 off. That's basically free. I'm just kidding. I don't do. It's like girl math and whiskey math are kind of the same thing. It's like but like if I save enough money, it's basically free. Or like if I get enough points at Total Wine and get $30 off, it's free. Yeah. Cliffy math. I like that. That's what we're gonna call it. All right, let's go to nose the Old Soul TinType number 2. Like I said, there have been a couple releases of this. There's a TinType 1 that was a little bit younger. It was also more affordable. I think the retail on that was around 100. The sale price was like 70. But I'm gonna go for the older one. Interesting. Okay, not too much on the nose. Not right off the bat. Not too much on the nose. It is a fresh crack, so maybe it just needs to open up a little bit. The next one we're going to do after this is also a fresh crack, so just FYI. It's a little bit leather, quite savory, not sweet at all. Good amount of oak. I mean, it's like the age is really showing on this whiskey. Just on the nose alone. It doesn't have any of those sweeter notes that I think you would expect. I mean, we just had a 3 to 4 year old MGP. This is kind of why I did these back to back. So we just had a 3 to 4 year old MGP Indiana bourbon. This is a twice as old, if not more than twice as old, maybe even up to 3 years as old bourbon from the same distillery. And what a drastic difference that age makes. There's a little bit of like cinnamon toast crunch, like cereal. If you go real deep on the nose, that's the only sweetness I'm getting. It's like cinnamon sugar, but everything else is rich, leather, little bit of tobacco, charred oak versus toasted oak. Toasted oak, I mean, you guys know. Toasted oak to me is more of like a vanilla marshmallow kind of thing. This is charred oak. This is a really rich oak. I do like the nose on that one. Donner Pass Whiskey says the ones with the graphic clues are very cool, but I think you guys are having a side conversation. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Tony said I came to the sad realization that Kohl's Cash isn't really free money. Oh my gosh. Back when I had Kohl's all around me in South Carolina, there were Kohl's everywhere. I was a sucker for it. They got you in the loop. You bought something and it's like, oh, well, you got $20 Kohl's Cash. You went to buy something else. Oh, well, you got $10 Kohl's Cash. is always something. I will say, I do. Honestly, I thought Kohl's for the most part, like they didn't overcharge for their things. I just out here in Southern California, they're really hard to find. I would shop there more often if I had one near me. And then Pat says, "Can you tell Heather to not go to Kohl's, guys?" Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Yes, vocal warm-ups for the music. There you go. Huh, on theme. All right. Let's go ahead and give the Old Soul TinType number 2 a taste. Cheers, guys. Ooh, man. Wow. We are taking a massive leap forward in good whiskey. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's delicious. Yeah, no complaints there. Not whatsoever. That age, I love highly aged MGP bourbon. I mean, I even think at like 7 years it starts to get really good, but we're talking about almost 9 years old Indiana bourbon. That's really good. I will say I just participated in a barrel pick with its bourbon night a couple weeks ago for their meetup, and we also ended up picking an 8 year, I believe it's an 8 year Indiana bourbon, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, MGP at 8 years old at cask strength is just mouth-wateringly good. Oh, I gotta have another sip of that one. The nose, I will say the nose, you wouldn't expect it to be as good on the nose. The nose really isn't jumping out of the glass here. You're having to dig really, really deep for those notes, but on the palate, the flavor is just bursting at the seams. Mm, yeah. It's got more richness and sweetness than I thought on the nose. Very dense, almost like a fudge sweetness, but it's more of like a milk chocolate fudge than a dark chocolate. It is surprisingly sweeter than it smelled. Trying to see if I can get some of those leather and tobacco things on the palate as well. It kind of hangs out in the upper left and right parts of your mouth, which is a really specific thing, but I don't think it happens very often with bourbon. Usually, a lot of the flavor I'm getting bourbon is usually at the lower part, back on the finish. This one kind of hangs out like upper palate, which is unique. And I think maybe it's coming from a bit of the proof, but also that age could be lending to that flavor as well. Yeah, definitely. I will say less so of the because I said leather, tobacco. If it's tobacco, it's a sweeter tobacco. Leather's still there a little bit. It's almost more into like the hmm. This one's really making me think, and that's to me that's a sign of a good bourbon if it makes you think. It's got a little bit of like a orange zest kind of thing, but like a really dark orange. Is that a thing? It's like a mix of like okay, here's an easy way to describe it. It's like a mix of like a vintage whiskey note and like an orange peel that's been charred, like for an old fashioned. Those two notes aren't necessarily always the same, but I feel like if you combine those two notes, this is kind of what it reminds me of. Does that make sense? Probably not. Yeah, Fred, this is good for $90, hands down. 125 would be a little bit harder to justify, I think. I think around 100. 100 would be kind of my target for this. So if you ever see it go on sale, keep an eye out. I don't think it's bad for 125. I just think that feels a little bit more premium. Like I'm really loving this and I enjoy it a lot. It just is a little bit of I don't know. There's just some comparable bottles I can find for similar price, but not bad at all. Donner Pass Whiskey says, "Have you been drinking that K&L Compass box? I think you said you got one a while ago, but not sure if you've opened it." I have been. I have opened it. I've not been drinking too much of it because Whiskey Sensory Shenanigans actually sent me a sample of their first release that they ever did, and I don't know if I have that in front of me or if I have it somewhere else. But I wanted to compare that release to the new one. So I have opened it. It's back here somewhere. But I haven't. I don't think I've done a review or anything on it. I don't know. Thanks for the reminder. I'm gonna check that out and see if I still have that sample because I think I want to do that review soon. But yeah, It's really good. It's not good enough to make me go seek out another bottle of it at the moment because it's still pretty available. But yeah, I'm a fan of that K&L Compass box for sure. All right, we got one more whiskey to get through tonight. This one is one that I bought because I thought the label was so interesting. Something I'd never seen before. So actually, I picked this up in Kentucky, believe it or not. I have a bit of a water break. I realize I'm rushing through these things, but this one is based on a vintage label. So this is the Hughes Belle of Bedford extra age straight rye whiskey out of Bedford, Pennsylvania, I believe. So obviously, that's a reprint of a vintage label. This is not, an actual vintage whiskey. It's a new label, but it caught my eye so much that I grabbed it when I saw it on the shelves. And actually, I was in Justin's House of Bourbon in Lexington, and for at the moment at least, they had their single barrels picks available for $5 a pour. So I got to try this one for $5 before committing to a bottle of it. And I would have bought it anyways, but it's always good to try before you buy it. Something I can't really do out here in Southern California. So this one, beyond the pretty label, which by the way, let me tell you a little bit about the label. I did some research on it before the stream. This is based out of a distillery that was founded in 1872 in Bedford, Pennsylvania. They were on a farm. All of their grains were grown locally, and it went through a lot of changes up to 1920, which is Prohibition. But in 1890, they changed names to Hughes Brothers Distillers. So again, long history there, but all you really need to know is they were making rye whiskey back pre-Prohibition. Now, I'm sure after Prohibition, they kind of died out. But this label got revitalized and is now being used for an independent bottling of straight Indiana whiskey. So this is a rye whiskey out of Indiana, MGP. But what's exciting is, let's see if I can show this. This is going to be hard to read. There we go. Here's all the facts about it. It is a 13-year-old non-chill filtered cask strength, 111.11 proof, mash bill 95.5 rye, barrel char number 4, Indiana rye whiskey. 13-year-old MGP rye. Price-wise, it was $100. $100 for a 13-year-old Indiana rye. Sold. That enough would be enough to sell me, but I will say after trying it, I had to pick up a bottle. So I'm excited to try this for you guys. Again, this is a Justin's House of Bourbon single barrel pick. But yeah, 111.11 proof, 13-year-old Canadian, or not Canadian, I don't know why I said Canadian, 13-year-old MGP rye. Donner Pass said for the K&L bottle, he killed one and got another put away, as I love the Bowmore, I'm going to say Bowmore, which is the main ingredient. Distillery bottle Bowmore is pathetic, unfortunately, but independent bottles are gold. Gotcha. Tony said, for the record, if you buy the bottle, the $5 goes towards the purchase. Yes, at Justin's House of Bourbon. Been that way as long as I've known them. Yeah, great point. But honestly, $5 to try a store pick is just a crazy good deal. Cool old label and great transparency. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and nose this one because I've already had it, but I'm going to remind myself. Now, I will say I let my partner have a pour of this earlier tonight with the fresh cock of the bottle, and he said he felt like it needed to open up a bit. The one that I had at the bar had already been open for like it was like half empty. So my first impressions of this one may not match exactly what I got on it when I tried it at the Justin's House of Bourbon, but I know I'll eventually grow to love this one. So he warned me that like it was a bit hot, like as a first fresh crack pour. Let's go ahead and nose it though. Oh man. Okay, am I alone here? Someone else back me up. Who else is in love with older rye whiskey? Like I'm talking like 9, 10, 13-year-old rye whiskey. I think it's some of the best whiskey on the market. Listen, I'm a bourbon guy. I'll drink bourbon all day, every day. But when you give me an old rye whiskey, I want to take my time with it. I want to cherish every sip of it because to me, older rye whiskey is just so well crafted. And the flavor profile is something unmatched, even in terms of bourbon. I find it hard to find a bourbon that has certain flavor characteristics that an older rye whiskey has. I'm not so, I hate always bringing this up because I feel like I'm bragging, but Booker's Rye, when it came out, I did have a chance to try that 3 different occasions, and it was still hands down favorite whiskey I've ever tried. So if a rye whiskey can be my favorite whiskey ever tried, that means that more affordable rye whiskeys can still beat out some higher end bourbon whiskeys. So again, $100, 13-year cask strength, splashing it all over myself. I'm getting a little too excited. Um, Nose, it's something about older rye to me is less of that minty, grassy kind of thing you get for younger rye, and more of a. Hmm, it's old book, old library, a bit of like a cedar. I sometimes get like a cedar note just because of the spiciness from it. Vintage smelling, just all around like an antique store. Definitely leather, definitely tobacco in a different way. It's a brighter way. So I said that the Old Soul is like a sweet tobacco. This one is more of like a menthol, I guess like a menthol tobacco. That's the thing. I'm not a smoker, but I know some cigarettes have menthol in them. I don't know about cigars, but it's a little bit of there's a little hint of the mint with that tobacco note. But man, I could smell this all day. It's a little graininess, a little bit of like that rye grain is showing up, like a nicely. I was gonna say like a nice rye bread, but it's less like a baked rye bread. It's what I imagine a toasty rye bread would taste like. Like if you toasted a piece of rye bread. I don't think I've ever done that at home. At least not at home. I probably had toasted rye bread on a sandwich, but I've never toasted my own rye bread. It's got that like little bit of char with that rye. That's really really good. All right, people raising their hand for the older rye whiskey. Fred said he was drinking Kentucky Owl rye last night. Yes, indeed. Tony bought a 13-year from Dark Arts. Shout out to Sarah. Yeah, shout out to Sarah at Dark Arts. Bought that Templeton 13-year last weekend. Templeton 13. I haven't seen that one. I will say, so an easy way to get older MGP rye, one of my secret hacks that I don't want to talk too much about, but I have included in on top whiskey of the year. Templeton 10-year rye. It's not cask strength. It's like 110, which is relatively close to this cask strength. 10-year-old MGP rye, about $80, has been one of my secret, like always have on the shelf bottles. It's just solid Indiana rye. It's not finished or anything. Since I'm not in Kentucky and I can't get myself another bottle of this one, which I gladly would, I think the Templeton 10-year rye is my go-to like older rye. If I want to have it on my shelf, I'm going to grab that one. But if I had access to a 13-year-old cask strength for $100, that would be my go-to. 13-year and double barrel sounds okay. Oh, the one that you had at Dark Arts. I don't know if I tried that one. And I will not read that, especially on Instagram. Who knows? Who knows what the rules are there? This is my first time streaming on Instagram, but I love it. I've been sipping that 10-year. I've been seeing that 10 years praises since it dropped. Oh yeah, me too. I just try not to talk too much about it because like I want to buy it for myself. I love that Templeton 10-year. So good. Hendrickson Family Farm. Welcome. Good to see you. I think first time I've seen you in the stream. Glad to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. I'm drinking some Hughes Belle of Bedford single barrel 13-year-old Indiana rye whiskey. Very very excited. Cheers. Oh, I haven't tasted it yet. I've been so excited about the nose. I haven't actually tried it. Let's go for a taste. Cheers. Oh. Wow. You know how I said on the nose I had a bit of a vintage quality? On the palate, 100%. That reminds me of some of the older bottlings, some decanter bottlings I've had of trying to say, because I've had some decanter Jim Beam and I've had some decanter Ezra Brooks and some decanter Wild Turkey. I can't place which one, but it does remind me of some 70s or 80s whiskey. There's a bit of like a don't want to say metallic because metallic can be seen as a bad way. Let me get another sip. I went again. There's a little bit of like okay. I'm going to say this in a nice way. It's like a copper. There's a little bit of a copper note, like almost like it has run through some copper pipes, but it's not off-putting. It's not like it's like tannic or like acidic. Sometimes like when we get like an aluminum note on like for example, an Irish whiskey, it's a little off-putting. This isn't. It's actually complementary to the oakiness here. It's a very dry whiskey. You're not going to get that sweet rye that you expect out of a 13-year-old. That's a dry whiskey. Because I've said this, actually I said it on my podcast today, by the way, new podcast episode, wherever you get your podcast, the Bourbon Bites podcast. I mentioned that rye always tastes older than it is. So even though this is 13 years old, there's some dryness there that would make me think this is a 15 to 18-year-old whiskey. It's that much character behind it. Mm. Yeah, I mean, just a fantastic rye whiskey. From the moment I tried that, I mean, from the moment I saw it, I wanted to buy it. From the moment I tried it, I wish I had room for a second bottle because I really like it. I mean, I also have to sing some praises to Justin's House of Bourbon out of Lexington. They did this pick. They picked a really good one. I can't tell you if all of the releases from the Hughes Belle of Bedford are this good, but if you see one with a 13-year age statement on it, Justin's House of Bourbon, you should absolutely pick that up. I know they still have it in stock, so if you go to their store, tell them Cliffy sent you. They don't know me, but maybe they will. Maybe they'll learn to know me and send me more bottles. Hendricks and Family Farm said just had some Larceny Penelope, Penelope Toasted and Bullet 10. Just getting into bourbon by the last 2 months. Awesome. Well, man, those are some great first bottles to have for just now getting into bourbon. Nice. I'm a big fan of, I mean, Bullet 10. Is it the 10 bourbon or the 10 rye? I've not had the 10 bourbon, but I have had the 10-year rye. Penelope, always a fan of Penelope. I actually just did a bottle kill of the Penelope Toasted Rye a couple days ago. I had a little bit left, so I added it to an infinity bottle, but I do like that one a lot. So welcome. You picked some good ones to get into whiskey, and welcome to the channel. Hopefully you enjoy. I'm here every Thursday. Well, not every Thursday, but most Thursdays I'm here live. Speaking of which, before we go, I do want to say we have some really fun live streams coming up soon that'll make you want to come back, hopefully. Bardstown Bourbon Company, I'm having a guest from their distillery come on next Thursday. We're going to be trying 2 of their latest expressions, their new Origin series, their new Discovery series, and a collaboration that they're doing. Super excited for that. I haven't had Bardstown on in a long time, so I'm excited to have their national brand rep on. I think her name is Jasmine, if I remember correctly. Then the week after that, got to pull up my calendar. I don't normally have this many guests back to back, but the week after that, we are going to have on December 18th, Branch and Barrel Distilling out of Colorado. They sent me a lot of whiskey, guys. They sent me like 8 different whiskeys. We're going to have to break it up into 2 different streams because they sent me some of their core lineup, like their 3-year age dated and their 5-year age dated, but they did a bunch of fun experimental casks that they did some finishing in. So what we're going to do with that brand, I forget their name again, Branch and Barrel Distilling, what we're going to do with them is we are going to do a first stream as like an introductory stream on December 18th, and then sometime early 2026, we're going to get into some of these more experimental releases from them. So have a double feature with them coming up soon. Then, of course, the week after that is Christmas. I won't be live on Christmas, but the following week, New Year's Day, December 1st, or January 1st, is when I'm going to be doing my top 10 whiskeys of 2025. So I'm going to go all the way right up to the very end of the year to rank my top 10. They're almost entirely American whiskeys usually. So I sometimes throw it in like a special category where I include like an Irish whiskey or a Scotch. Sometimes I even include those in the lineup. As you can tell, I've not narrowed down my list even remotely. I have some contenders, but I don't have a list yet. But I'm very, very excited to do that. But I'm excited for the streams leading up to it. Yeah, Fred, I just saw your comment. I'm going to drop a link to their page in the chat here. Yeah, so they are based out of Colorado. I've never had their stuff before. Like I said, they have a core portfolio, which we're going to be doing for their first stream, and then we're going to be doing their other limited releases. But they have some very nicely aged bourbon and some other spirits. So check them out. Maybe do some digging, find the questions you want to ask, and then I'll be interviewing them on the 18th of December. But remember, next week is Bardstown Bourbon Company. All right, well, we've come to the end of our stream. So I have to make a consensus. Can you judge a whiskey by its label? My answer to that one is I don't think you should. And that's not to say that like labels are indicators of good whiskey or bad whiskey. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying you can just do a base level of research on a whiskey and learn more than anything a label is going to tell you. For example, let's say you see this really cool bottle of Abduction bourbon or Abduction whiskey, and you're like, what the heck is this? Well, first thing you want to do is look at the bottom. You see this labeled as a straight bourbon whiskey. That means it's at least 4 years old. If it doesn't have an age statement, you see that it's 90 proof. You're like, okay, so it's a 90 proof bourbon. On the back, they tell you it's 3 to 4 years old. And then if you read the small print, you always got to look for the small print. Look for distilled in. So it'll either say Indiana, Kentucky, if you're looking for American whiskey anyways. That'll give you a really clear indicator of what you're buying. So a lot of times something will say like, it'll make you think it's like a homegrown recipe or their grandpappy's secret recipe, but really it's just Indiana bourbon. And there's nothing wrong with Indiana bourbon. But I'm saying do a little bit of research beyond just the label, even though labels can be enticing. Just do a little, just like literally like 30 seconds to 2 minutes of research. No, I'm not saying don't just buy something on a whim. Do it if you want to. But when you're spending $45 on something like this that I wouldn't spend more than $25 on normally, just that 2 minutes of research is going to save you a lot of money because you're going to find some really good bottles. Just, if anything, just open Reddit or YouTube. Wow, I just almost destroyed. Well, I guess I do have post. Open bourbonbites.com and search for the whiskey and see if I've reviewed it and hear my thoughts on it. No, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say open your web browser, your favorite social media site, whether it's Reddit, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. Search for that whiskey and see another person's perspective on it. You're not going to always agree with everyone's perspective, but if you Google it and you see that everyone's talking trash about it and how it's overpriced and it's god-awful, bam, you just saved however much money. That's how I feel. Use the label as a starting point. You can be attracted to pretty labels, but just take 30 seconds to 2 minutes to research a little bit more before you pull the trigger. I think you'll appreciate what you learn from that little bit of research. Again, you don't have to be an expert to know the general consensus. Just Google it. It's like you look at reviews. Like before you go watch a movie, you usually will look at the reviews, right? Think of it like that with whiskey. Hey, I've been doing this YouTube channel since like 2018. I have like 7 years of reviews out there on the internet right now. But like I said, we can just search Bourbon Bites and then search the name of the whiskey. I might have reviewed it. Here are my thoughts on it. I don't know. Just a little shameless plug there. Labels are fun, not referencing. If only I had the willpower to not buy a bottle that I see. Nope, never read a review before I watched a movie. I don't necessarily read full reviews, but I do look at the general consensus, the general rating. Like I'll look at the Metacritic score or the IMDb score or the Rotten Tomatoes score. I'm not going to necessarily read reviews, but I like to at least know what I'm getting into. Like, am I getting into a 30% Rotten Tomatoes movie, or if I'm getting to a 99% Rotten Tomatoes? To me, that's a big difference. I'll set my expectations based on what other people do, and they can either be exceeded or trashed. All right, well, with that does it for this week's episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of these bourbons at my after-party hangout, which is for everyone on Patreon at the $10 levels or more. You can also join at bourbonbites.com, what I call the Bite Club, which is my membership program here. You can also join for as little as $2 a month and support the channel with fun things like polls, early access to my podcast, video ideas, and all the fun updates that the Bite Club gets. So check that out, bourbonbites.com. Check out my podcast. New episode just launched this morning. And check out Twitch, because I've been streaming with some amazing members of this community. It's been a lot of fun. Twitch.tv/bourbonbites. Before you go, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Thank you, Emily, for the reminder. Whether you're on Instagram or YouTube, let me know if you like the dual stream. Let me know if you like seeing it on both platforms. And we may do it again. But until next time, this has been the Bourbon Bites. This has been Bourbon Bites, not the podcast, live stream. I'm Clifton. Cheers, and I'll talk to you guys. I will talk to you next Thursday. I had to think because I was like, last week it was Thanksgiving. But yes, I'll talk to you next Thursday and the Thursday after that, and not the Thursday after that, but then the Thursday after that. All right. All right. Cheers, y'all. Have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you soon.